Okay, boys and girls, today's Tuesday, October 13th. And for our reading story this week, we're going to start Substitute Creature. Okay? And we're also going to be talking about what it means to foreshadow. Foreshadowing. Because we're going to practice that today as we read this story. The word "fore" means ahead. Shadow means a glimpse of something. So if you put those two together, that means we want to know a glimpse of something ahead of time. Okay? Okay, so what does foreshadowing mean? It's a literary device that is used to give readers a hint of what is to come later on in the story. Readers can develop predictions about the coming events. Okay? So what that means is, have you ever seen a movie and as you're watching it, maybe the music or something happens and it kind of leads you to believe of what you think might happen next? And you kind of can figure out what you think is going to happen next in the movie. Have y'all had that happen before? Yeah, a lot of times, because most of the movies that you watch are pretty predictable because they have the same type of scenarios. Okay? So that's what foreshadowing means. The author gives you little clues to help you see or know what's about to come. Okay? So think of it as clues to hint about what's going to come in the future. Okay? So as I'm reading the story, I'm going to stop, and then you will have to make a prediction based off of what the author was foreshadowing, okay? And I will help you, okay? Because this is the first time we've gone over this. Okay, so listen to the story, and I will stop so we can do our foreshadowing. But before we start, I want you to look at the cover of the book. Just by looking at the cover of the book, can we make some predictions about what might happen? What do you think might happen, Bryson? Okay, he said the kids might get scared because why?
Because
they're probably expecting a teacher to be there, he said. Good. And so you can tell just by looking at the cover that he's in a classroom?
Yes.
Okay. And by the title, maybe, because a substitute is something that happens in school. Good. By Chris Gall. That's the author, Chris Gall. Okay? So we can have a sense that this might be a little bit scary. Okay? Do you enjoy being scared or creeped out? Or are you you just want happy stuff?
Yeah. A little bit.
Raise your hand if you like creepy stories sometimes. Good. Okay. Why do you like creepy stories?
Because they're funny and fun.
Funny, suspenseful. You kind of want to just
scary if it's like
figure out the clues, solve the puzzle sometimes.
Yeah, I'm into it already. My brothers keep on saying creepy things.
Yeah?
I always have to watch it because they're in the living room.
Okay, well, let's start the story. Zoom out. Okay. Dear students, I will be unable to teach our class due to a serious case of frazzled nerves. I've asked a rather special someone to make sure you are all well taken care of while I'm gone, and I certainly wouldn't suggest playing any tricks on him. Have a happy Halloween and good luck, Miss Jenkins.
Someone put a blah 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 right there.
Okay, look at the pictures. Don't they already look a little creepy?
No. Yeah, I see the monster in the distance.
The monster in the distance.
I mean, it doesn't look creepy. I mean, if I would live there, I'd feel kind of. I mean, it's pretty nice.
On a windswept day in late October, the students of Miss Jenkins' class arrived to a surprise at school. "Substitute teacher today?" announced Peyton. Amanda giggled and scribbled on the chalkboard, Luke performed a circus act. Gavin laughed like a mad scientist. Then, at precisely 8 o'clock, the door to the classroom creaked open. The substitute entered the room. Good morning to all. My name's Mr. Creacher. Miss Jenkins has asked me to step in as teacher. She claims that this class has grown quite out of hand, so I'm here to warn you we're taking a stand. Amanda snickered at the way he spoke. Gavin opened a fresh box of tacks. The creature glared. If you're plotting some mischief, please don't even try. In the back of my head, you'll find more than one eye. Luke drew an eye on his own forehead. Mr. Creature didn't think that was. Attention all scamps, all rascals and fools. 49 years I've visited schools. I've collected some tales whose lessons are grave, about boys and girls who didn't behave. They'll give you the goosebumps. They'll shiver your skin. Now pay strict attention. It's time we begin. And with that, Mr. Creature reached into his bag. Then he pulled out a tattered file. Keith. First we met Keith, a hungry young lad. Snacking on glue was a habit he had. He ate so much glue, no amount was too much, that he started to stick to all he would touch. Soon no one could find the boy underneath all of the objects that stuck to poor Keith. Peyton's huge backpack fell over and a dozen glue sticks rolled out. Mr. Creature looked very unhappy. Have you heard about Sarah? She crammed all her stuff inside of her desk, but enough was enough. Her desk was so full that it started to shake. It rattled and lurched like a minor earthquake. Kids ran for their lives and the teachers threw fits, and then Sarah's desk blew itself into bits. Amanda passed a note to Luke, but Mr. Creature snatched it from her hands. Kylie, the artist, was always the best at drawing when she would be taking a test. When a dragon she drew looked so real it blew smoke, the children suspected it might be a joke. But the dragon on paper then leapt from the page. It tore through the room in a flame-throwing rage. Are you not yet convinced? Did I notice a yawn? In case you're in doubt, do let me go on. Listen up. Have you heard of the daydreamer Zach? His mind wandered off while he took out his snack. So he failed to see the open cage door, and he simply ignored little tracks on the floor. And no one else noticed, in time to shout freeze, that the sandwich he held was of hamster and cheese. Yeah. Luke jumped when he felt a nibble inside his shirt pocket. Mr. Creature opened another file. Kate always carried her backpack with pride and made a great place for her monkey to hide. Now everyone knows the no pets allowed rule. When her monkey escaped, it wreaked havoc at school. Then the children all thought they should bring a pet too. Soon the school was a mess, and it smelled like a zoo. Gavin quietly tied Amanda's shoelaces together. Mr. Creature scowled, then continued. Now, this impish fellow, whose nickname was Hank, like most little boys, loved to pull a good prank. He brought in a guppy to enliven the class, but in days it grew teeth that could chomp right through glass. It wouldn't stop growing. Its skin became dark. Now Hank really wished he'd not brought in a shark. Mr. Creature paused and gazed upon the silent room. Then he reached into his case one last time. And last we have Chris, a mischievous sort, with a fondness for thieving, I'm sad to report. It seems the poor boy liked to trick for his treats. Dressed like a monster, he scared kids for sweets. But then he stole candy from a magical gnome. Now the trick was on Chris. He could never go home. Never? Amanda gulped. Why? Whispered Peyton.
Oh, I see something. It's just a costume on the teacher. Because look at the very bottom of the picture. With the kid walking off, you can see his legs. And then they got the teacher holding the paper. I knew that. Is that the Superman guy?
When he took off his costume, Chris saw the gnome's curse. He had 7 green legs and something much worse. A note explained how for the rest of his days he'd teach other children about wicked ways. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. Now, what do you think is going to happen next? Have they given you some clues about what might happen next? This is foreshadowing. If they've given you clues and you kind of have a picture in your mind of what you think is going to happen next, then the author has put that in there on purpose. That's called foreshadowing, okay? So now, what do you think is going, let's talk about Mr. Creature. What do you predict Mr. Creature is going to do based off of what we just read? You have any ideas, Bryson?
Just what we just read, like that page. For that, I think he's gonna start being nice and stuff.
Okay. So, was he the one that was cursed?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a boy, and then he was wearing a cool costume at Halloween, and then he just became.
Yeah, see?
Okay, so you predict, based off of what we just read, that he is going to start being nice. Okay, what about the students? After listening to all of his stories, what is your prediction, Kaylee?
That the kid that was cursed was actually him. They're gonna find out.
Oh, you think the kids are going to find out? Okay.
No.
Okay. All right, let's continue reading. So, foreshadowing, that's what we're working on. Till he repaid his debt, a creature he'd be, and by now you should know that monster is me. Cool, said Luke. I'm sorry, Mr. Creature, said Amanda. You're the best substitute ever, said Gavin. Mr. Creature, spy the clock on the wall. It all happened here half a century ago at this very school. I thought you should know. Goodbye and good luck. My time here is done. I'll leave you a gift. For each there is one. The students of Miss Jenkins' class thanked Mr. Creature for the candy and promised never to torment their teacher again. Then Mr. Creature was gone. Outside, Mr. Creature looked in his case and saw that he had one last piece of the candy he had stolen so many years ago. He just needed someone to give it to. Then he noticed a small old man nearby who wore a funny, familiar hat. Mr. Creature quietly slipped the candy into the man's pocket. As the substitute creature walked slowly down the windy street, he noticed a sweet smell in the autumn air. It was a smell he remembered from long ago. His tentacles tingled as the smell pulled him forward, and the world started to spin around him. He began to run to a small house at the end of the street. There, his bike was still leaning by the step, and his dog was still waiting on the lawn. Everything as if he had never been gone. Chris was home, and he was just in time for a Halloween treat. Look at the cookies.
Oh no, he's gonna turn into a weird monster.
Okay.
He has to.
It looks like the costume that he wore when he was little.
Yeah.
He's still little? I thought he was grown. A grown man.
I'm guessing whenever he turned into an alien, I'm guessing like his growing stopped working and he just stayed as an alien and then.
Okay, so we finished the book and we flipped back to this page where he pulled out of his bag a picture of Chris. As we started reading here, did we know that Chris was actually him?
No.
No. Okay. Did we know that the boy that stole the treats and scared kids was the creature? No, not yet. But then he kind of gave us a little bit more clues. What do we see over here? In this picture, we noticed what?
That he's stealing the candy.
You noticed him stealing the candy, and the costume of the boy that he's talking about is dressed just like him.
So basically, he wore a costume that looked like an alien monster.
So that's what the author did. He started to foreshadow that this boy was actually the creature. Okay? And then we got here and we said, when he took off his costume, Chris saw the gnome's curse. He had 7 green legs and something much worse. A note explained how for the rest of his days he'd teach other children about wicked ways. Okay? So based off of these 2 pages, what was the author foreshadowing about Mr. Creature? He was foreshadowing that what? Chris was actually bad, and it was him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The author was leading us to realize that Chris was actually
Wait. Then what were the
Mr. Creature.
So Chris was the teacher?
Uh-huh.
So Chris was a kid.
He was a kid, but he was cursed, right?
Like a long time ago.
And we started to see that maybe that boy he's talking about that was bad was actually Mr. Creature, because we noticed that the costume the boy was wearing in the picture right here, when he starts talking about Chris, we noticed, that's kind of ironic that he's dressed as the same thing that Mr. Creature looks like. Okay?
You can tell that the gnome was getting cursed because it has like magic around it.
Oh, yeah. She said you can tell the gnome was going to curse him because there's magic around him. Good. So that's kind of foreshadowing, too, that, oh, well, maybe he's going to cast a spell on him, and that's why he looks like a creature, a monster now.
If I was cursed,
Okay.
I would be a princess.
Now, what about the students? The students. What did the author start to foreshadow about the students' behavior, maybe? You want me to zoom in on the writing? The author was leading us to realize that Chris was actually Mr. Creature. It was a curse. Okay. And we don't have to write how because we just talked about it. We know how he was foreshadowing because of the pictures of the boy in the costume, the gnome with the magic around it, the expression on Mr. Creature's face. He looks sad. C-U-R-S-E, curse. Okay, and what was he foreshadowing about the students? What do you think he was trying to get? What was the point he was trying to make the whole story with all the files he kept pulling out? Kelsey?
He was telling about the kids, and he the reason why he was being mean to the children is because he wanted them to be good and don't let them get cursed by him.
Okay, so on here, what is the hint that he's giving us? A note explain how for the rest of his days he'd teach other children about wicked ways. What do you think that's kind of hinting towards?
That he tried to tell other people to not steal candy and not be rude.
Yes, to not be wicked, right? To not be bad. So it's leading you to believe that the students are going to be what?
Nice.
Good, yes.
Be like,
Okay. So when he says he teaches
Right there.
other kids about wicked ways. Oops. The author hints that the kids will be better, right? The kids will be good. For their teacher. When she returns, right? Isn't that the whole point? She wanted that substitute to kind of scare them so they would be good when she got back. Okay? So that's what foreshadowing means. There are some clues in the book that kind of gave you hints about what was going to happen next. Okay? The pictures can give you clues. What they say and how they say it can give you clues. And that's what it means for foreshadowing. You're using those hints to predict what's going to happen in the future. Okay? All right, so those of you at home, you could have typed this in. We're writing it in our journal here at school, but as long as you know what needs to go under the creature side and what needs to go under the student side, you can just type that in Seesaw. Okay?